Scientists aren't always looking out for our own best interests. It's unfortunate that those who are supposed to be helping to make society better can also be blinded by greed and their own self-interests. We wanted you to be aware of this injustice and have decided to put together 5 things scientists don't want you to know in order to help clear things up. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Antibiotics. This is a very serious issue and has been known in one way, shape, or form for quite a while now, but the necessary steps to avoid any potential problems have been adopted rather slowly. We're talking, of course, about microbes, especially those that mean us harm, building up a tolerance to modern antibiotics. This was always bound to happen eventually. Evolution will always be cranking those gears and attempting to gain an advantage after all. What wasn't expected, however, was the speed with which these microbes are gaining ground in their own war against antibiotics. Overprescription is a very serious concern, as the more antibiotics we pump into our systems, the more opportunities various microbes will have to adapt and strengthen their own immunities. It's really not a difficult step to overcome, but medical practitioners have been taught that they should absolutely be prescribing as many antibiotics as possible. It's the exact same thing we see with regard to opiates and other addictive painkillers that continue to be handed out like candy, regardless of the proven negative side effects. This all boils down to corporate greed. Big Pharma, along with the AMA, basically took control of the medical schools across the country. What that allowed them to do was place themselves in the perfect position to teach the US's doctors and nurses their own form of medicine, which, funnily enough, relies heavily on the use of expensive, prescribed medicines, many of which we would do just fine without. Patients being prescribed serious opiates for minor injuries and receiving large amounts of stronger antibiotics for injuries, operations, and situations that don't actually call for them at all is standard practice and is based around making a quick buck off our misfortune. It's hard to fault the doctors and scientists whose only mistake was receiving a biased education, but the fact of the matter is that a little critical thinking goes a long way. It's quite obvious that many of these so-called medical professionals are probably less smart than they think they are. Either that, or they're just easily misled and don't follow up with proper research when different opinions are expressed. Countless studies have shown that overprescription of these drugs is a very real problem, and yet it just continues to happen. While all doctors don't graduate first in their class and all scientists don't have their community's best interests at heart, we should hope that enough critical thinkers make it through med school to begin to see some real change with regard to this unfortunate situation. Unless we break the cycle, modern science simply won't be able to keep up when it comes to discovering new antibiotics that the bugs aren't yet immune to. And that puts both ourselves and future generations at serious risk of a devastating microbial catastrophe of immense proportions. Number 4. Router radiation. Background radiation from our everyday devices has been a cause of concern since the dawn of the information age. Cell phone signals, to name one heavy hitter, have been blamed for many chronic illnesses in people around the world. While they don't seem to affect sperm counts, they have been proven to have some very strange effects on people, with symptoms ranging from being almost non-existent to absolutely debilitating. Some people have even claimed that their work with cell companies exposed them to such high levels of radiation that they physically can't live anywhere near civilization or be within a few hundred yards of an electronic device. While proper studies have shown that there's good evidence to support these claims, most people just don't see much effect, which suggests that we may have varying levels of natural immunity to whatever all this supposed radiation is doing to our bodies. If some people are much more susceptible than others, it goes without saying that there will be some extreme cases, but that doesn't mean we're all clear just yet. Wi-Fi routers are now coming under attack and adding to the idea that we're constantly being pummeled by low doses of harmful radiation at all times. During a recent experiment conducted by high school students, 12 identical planters of cress seeds with 400 seeds in total divided between each of the planters were divided between 2 separate rooms. These rooms were maintained to be exact replicas of each other, allowing for the same amount of sunlight, water, and temperature. The students then placed 2 Wi-Fi routers next to the trays in only one room and left both sets of seeds to do their thing for the next 12 days. Amazingly, when they re-entered the rooms on the 12th day, the students found that the seeds without the router interference had grown beautifully, while the seeds next to the routers simply didn't grow at all. Those that did grow were almost all mutated and not all that much to look at. This easy experiment is quite unnerving and should raise some serious concerns. While Wi-Fi isn't going away anytime soon, it might be time to start taking the associated health risks seriously and attempt to find a solution once and for all. Number 3. Current mass extinction event. We know there have been a number of impressive extinction events that decimated life on our planet in the past. We also know that it's likely to happen again. We're actually currently a little overdue for our very own extinction event by most scientific standards. This has led some scientists to suggest that mankind itself could be leading the charge and helping to ensure the widespread extinction of life on Earth. If we actually were the catalyst for the next mass extinction, that would certainly explain why we're having a hard time seeing it. We all know Agent Smith called humans a cancer in the original Matrix movie, which was a fact that the movie's hero, Neo, simply wouldn't believe. But it should be noted that it really does make a lot of sense. Humans have driven countless species to non-existence, are continually breeding with increasing frequency and numbers, and we're poised to have to take each other on in the fight for limited resources. If we don't keep our population and cravings in check, we will absolutely be the cause of the next mass extinction event. Add nuclear weapons and even more powerful weapons potentially being developed in the future, and you have a recipe for certain disaster. These scientists say that this event possibly began with the overhunting of ancient creatures like the mastodons and mammoths, and is just building up momentum. Given that living organisms have been proven to be behind previous extinction events, it's really not all that unreasonable to think that we could easily do it again. This is a lot like our issues with antibiotics, but on a larger scale. We need to hold back and refrain from changing our environment too rapidly, or we simply won't be able to compete on an evolutionary level. Our understanding of the world around us only goes so far. With our limited understanding of processes like global warming, it's not likely that we'll be able to use advances in tech to fend off the dangers yet to come. Far too much of the world is already seeing basic necessities like food and water vanish before their eyes. While we doubt that this force we're unleashing on the world will be able to slow down in time, we're really hoping these scientists are wrong about us driving the next mass extinction event, because that would be a real drag. Number 2. Forensic evidence isn't foolproof. Courts and the justice system rely heavily on forensic evidence and expert scientific testimony to put bad guys behind bars. Prosecutors swear by this forensic evidence, and it has admittedly done a lot of good. Criminal behavior is much easier to spot and identify, with just about everything left at the scene being a viable and valuable asset. Crimes that used to go unsolved have been satisfactorily closed, and various characters of ill repute brought to sweet justice, all because of advances in forensic science. We think it's been a good thing in many regards, but there's no getting over the fact that the entire system is inherently flawed, with much supposed hard evidence actually being incredibly circumstantial. First of all, the processes used in forensic investigations are incredibly delicate and need the utmost attention to perform perfectly. The people conducting these tests and analyzing the respective results are, however, far from perfect, and achieving the correct result isn't that easy. When most experts give their opinion during testimony, they are, by and large, just that. Different researchers have been proven to deduce very different meanings in the same results, and on many occasions their deductions completely opposed each other. This interpretation of forensic evidence means that an expert claiming a fact is probably just stating a biased or purposefully misleading opinion based on less evidence than they've led you to believe. It's basically all similar in practice to psychology, which, while beneficial in many situations, is far from definite. Unfortunately, we've been bombarded with media and entertainment renditions of courtroom scenes featuring CSIs and courtroom evidence backed up by expert testimony, which has given us a false sense of the processes involved behind the scenes. Juries love expert testimony, but that doesn't mean that they should just accept what they're being told as fact. Critical thinking features here again, and we need to use it more often if we're going to overcome these challenges. Furthermore, even when the data isn't misrepresented, it can be plain wrong. False positives or corrupted data due to human error can easily mean the wrong person going to jail or a guilty person going free. The people processing and explaining these kinds of things are just people, after all, and we're capable of mistakes no matter how careful we are. Number 1. Alternative energy sources. It seems that we've known about plenty of alternative energy sources for decades, but they've been systematically downtrodden and quietly buried by the current heavy hitters in the energy world. Our demand for fossil fuels are reaching ridiculous levels, and those who control them stand to make a lot of money by keeping any competitors out of the game. Electric cars were even proven to be a viable option over a century ago, but they were forced out right as they were starting to compete with Ford's gas-powered engines. If the electric car had been protected back then, today's streets would probably look much different and our air would be a whole lot cleaner. Then we have thorium power, which is infinitely safer than uranium-fueled nuclear power. It also poses less threat to the environment, produces less toxic waste, and is completely sustainable. Even currently known thorium reserves are expected to fuel all of our future power needs with no problems. The only problem, it seems, is that there just wasn't enough profit to be made when dealing with a resource that is so abundant. Thorium fuel is also very much less suitable for nuclear weapons, which was the real reason it was nixed. Our governments were more happy with weapons than sustainable energy, to the detriment of the entire planet. Indeed, they continue to follow through with their assertions that the violently dangerous uranium-based nuclear power plants aren't enough of a concern to warrant adapting them to use thorium. Here at Top 5's Finest, we wholeheartedly disagree. Fossil fuels are obviously not our best option, and while they got us to where we are today, they need to be scrapped for technologies that'll help us better our own future and that of subsequent generations. Unfortunately for us, while alternative energy isn't difficult, changing the minds of those in power undoubtedly will be. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button before you head out if you're new. That's all you have to do. Come on, just click it. I know you want to. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. I heard it gives you superpowers in the future or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.